Lavrov discusses with his American counterpart in Brunei the preparations made to hold the Geneva International Conference on the crisis in Syria. Syrian Arab army troops continue their national tasks in eliminating terrorists in various areas. People's pressure on Morsi escalates as demonstrators close the entrances and exits of al-Tahrir Square. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our news for today. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov today discussed with his American counterpart, John Kerry, the preparations made for the convention of an international conference on Syria in Geneva, in addition to bilateral relations. In statements to the press on the sideline of their participation in Southeast Asian States Association, ASEAN in Brunei, Lavrov stressed that the U.S. admits that the key to an international conference on Syria is to combine and unify the Syrian opposition. Lavrov added that Russia's partners in Washington also admit that the Syrian opposition unification should be made on the basis of the Geneva statement issued on June the 30th last year. The two ministers also exchanged viewpoints on the results of the tripartite meeting held in Geneva on the 25th of last month within the framework of preparations made for the international conference on Syria. On his part, Kerry underlined the U.S. and Russia's commitment to the convention of the International Conference on Syria, expecting it to be held in August. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that he does not rule out that the U.S. might have spied on Russian diplomats working for the diplomatic missions in the European Union, following reports disclosed by the German Der Spiegel magazine in this respect. In statements to the press, Putin said such reports do not include information on espionage attempts against the Russian missions in the USA, adding that allies spy on one another and this has not to do with his country only. This has followed by the request by the majority of European countries to offer justifications for U.S. attempts to spy on European missions and officials' phone lines in Washington. The Russian Rosapron export company said it has delivered a new frigate to India, the last of 3 frigates built in Russia for the Indian Navy. The company said that the factory of Yantar in Leningrad on the Baltic witnessed the handover of the new frigate named of Trikant to Indian representatives. In 2006, Russia and India have signed a $1.6 billion contract concerning this request. India has received 2 of these frigates last year. Welcome back. Our armed forces have targeted a procession of terrorist vehicles that were heading from Da'il in the direction of Tafas in Daraa suburbs, destroying 4 cars and killing the armed men inside. The other cars were also destroyed when the terrorists tried to rescue the wounded. Clashes also erupted among terrorist gangs in Al-Mzayrib concerning women outfits and whether to be allowed to get out of their homes or not. The clashes resulted in killing a number of terrorists, including Mohammed Mahmoud al-Nabilsi, Yusuf al-Zu'abi, Mahmoud Abu Nikta, and the terrorist nicknamed Abu Abdurrahman. 10 citizens were wounded, including 3 children, when a mortar shell was fired by terrorists today at al-Tadamun residential neighborhood in Nisreen Street in Damascus. The wounded, 4 of them were in a serious condition, were moved to Damascus hospital. Among the wounded were a 1-year-old child and 2 5-year-old girls. The terrorist attack resulted in material damage inflicted on citizens' houses and properties in the area. Syrian Arab army achieved a great progress in chasing the armed terrorist groups in Bab Houd neighborhood in Homs, maintaining control on a large number of buildings. Many terrorists who were holed up inside the buildings to the west of Abdullah bin Mas'ud Mosque were killed after using those buildings as caches to store their weapons and ammunition and to carry out their attacks against the citizens in the neighborhood. Syrian Arab army also destroyed a hideout for the leaders of the armed terrorist groups in al-Baladiya neighborhood in al-Husn of Telkalakh countryside, killing all terrorists inside. As part of targeting the services, institutions and infrastructure, some terrorists fired mortar shells last night at a 7-story building in the neighborhood of Bab Houd in Homs, inflicting heavy casualties on the library equipment of the General Establishment of Social Insurance and the General Establishment of Sugar, as well as on a number of the services offices of the City Council. Egyptian media sources confirmed the resignation of the 2 spokesmen for the Egyptian presidency, Ihab Fahmy and Omar Amer. Meanwhile, Egyptian protesters in Tahrir Square closed by ropes today all entrances and exits of the square to ensure their sitting after spending a night on high alert, expecting attacks by members of the Muslim Brotherhood. Since the early morning, huge crowds of demonstrators kept flocking around al-Ittihadiyya presidential palace in Cairo as camping tents increased enormously at the opposite side of the palace along Merbni Street. Spokesman for the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon asserted the necessity for the Egyptians to resolve their differences peacefully by democratic means, renewing the call on all parties to abide by law and respect the right of peaceful demonstrations. Calm is restored today in Tripoli in northern Lebanon following fire shooting and the spread of armed men yesterday, which killed 1 Lebanese citizen and injured several others. Shops were burned down in Karm al-Qulla. The Lebanese army patrolled Tripoli streets, setting up barricades in the city's squares and roads. Tension dominated the city as clashes erupted between the army and armed men who blocked Abdul Hamid Karami Square, Bshara Khouri Boulevard and Al-Bahsas. They opened intensive fire and threw hand grenades in the streets, targeting the army. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Nariman Qassam after a short break.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. The Minister of Oil has denied any intention to raise the gasoline prices, affirming that this material is available today at gas stations in huge amounts. The Minister added that the reduction in the quantity in the coastal region is caused by the leak of the containers. Furthermore, the fuel company is working to cover the needs of all gas stations. Deputy Minister of Trade has expected the establishment of foreign trade to start importing basic needs in the near future. He said the list of the basic needs includes foodstuff, medicines, paper and fodder, noting that the government step is to promote and complete the private sector's role, specifically that this sector has the right to import from related countries. The Brent crude rose over $103 per barrel, continuing its gains for the second session due to fears of stopping supplies from the Middle East and Africa, while oil production declined in Libya after protesters closed several oil fields, which raised concerns about the oil exports from the Middle East. European shares retreated following yesterday's rally as investors awaited reports about the UK construction activity and the US factory orders. Asian shares rose with the regional benchmark index heading for a fifth day of gains after US industry expanded faster than the relevant forecasts. Japanese shares also rose, supported by profits for exports companies' stocks with the yen's decline. The Nikkei index was 0.84% high. The US dollar climbed to the highest level in almost a month against the yen, as gains of improvement in the US economy buoyed speculations that the Federal Reserve may soon start scaling back the asset purchases. The greenback traded near the strongest level in almost a month against the euro, before a report today that may show factory orders gained by the most in 3 months. Ladies and gentlemen, this was our economic news for today. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.